Sometimes I like to take a break from normal RPGs and play something different, like niche RPGs. So imagine my delight when Keymailer sent me a free review copy of Skelter Finale F. Skelter Finale F is a first-person dungeon crawler with turn-based combat. And if you've ever played one of those, you know the feeling. You're deep in a dungeon, and every step forward makes you wonder, do I push my luck or head back to safety? That tension, that's the stuff I live for. This game wraps up the story from the first two Skelter titles. Humanity is trapped inside a living prison known as the Jail, tortured daily by its own world. The only ones capable of fighting back are the Blood Maidens, powerful beings created to resist the jail's influence and guide humanity towards escape. At the start of Finale F, the survivors from the previous game have finally escaped to the surface, only to discover things are somehow even worse. Humanity isn't safe at all. A group called Massacre Pink has turned the outside world into a slaughterhouse, leaving mountains of bodies in their wake. Unlike most dungeon crawlers that keep the story elements light, Skelter Finale F goes all in. You're looking at over 30 minutes of dialogue before you even step into your first dungeon. And honestly, I enjoyed the ambition. The setting feels oppressive and hopeless in a good way. You really get the sense that these characters are constantly outmatched. I also enjoyed many of the light-hearted optional conversations at base. For example, those involving the new characters such as Toe, who is cold and calculating, and Mary, who was super smug alone, but extremely awkward with other people. One of the game's key systems is zapping. Throughout the story, you control multiple groups of characters, and you can switch between them instantly using the right trigger. This isn't just a gimmick, each team needs the other to progress. One group might open a path that another uses later. It's a clever system that keeps you engaged and prevents you from setting into one of the perfect parties set up for too long. That said, the storytelling does have its rough edges. Everything is delivered through character portraits and text boxes. There's no real narration to set the scene. Instead of something like, a tentacle bursts from the darkness and grabs him, you get a brief dialogue like, "Yarg, help!" So you're often left wondering what actually happened. And because there's no visual animation for most events, it can feel oddly detached. A character might be described as being stabbed through the shoulder, but their portrait remains completely clean, just a slight change in facial expression. The writing is detailed, but the presentations sometimes struggle to support it. Don't get me wrong though, if story matters to you in a dungeon crawler, there's still plenty to enjoy here. Exploration is where things get more intense. Dungeons are grid-based and your map fills in as you explore. Each dungeon also has a nightmare, a roaming boss that actively hunts you while you explore. And this isn't a scripted encounter, the nightmare moves in real time. You'll know it's nearby when the dungeon starts to darken, almost like the environment itself is closing in on you. Get too close, and you're forced into a real-time chase sequence. And the dungeons don't make it easy. You've got tight corridors, dead ends, traps, and random encounters. Worst of all, the nightmare keeps moving even when you're stuck in turn-based battles, so you're constantly under pressure. The nightmare itself is invincible, so you're not fighting it. You're surviving it. If you get cornered, your only option is to deal enough damage to briefly stun it and slip past. If you manage to escape its zone, it disappears for a short time, giving you a breather. Exploration also includes puzzle-like progression. You'll find switches, locked doors, shortcuts that connect back later, and character-specific abilities that are required to progress. Some puzzles even span multiple parties. One group might find a key and have to deposit it for another team to retrieve later. It adds a layer of planning that makes the dungeon design feel more interconnected than usual. Combat is turn-based, with one blood youth and up to 5 blood maidens in battle. Each maiden has HP, SP, and a blood gauge. As they take damage and stress builds up, their corruption increases. When it gets high enough, they can enter Blood Skelter mode, a dangerous state where they lose control and attack anything on the field, including allies. And trust me, you do not want that to happen. Blood youths don't directly attack. Instead, they manage the team's corruption using their own blood meter. One of your key responsibilities is shooting corruption away from the maidens to keep them stable. It's a strange system at first, but it becomes second nature over time. You can plant blood flowers in dungeons and water them with collected blood to get random rewards. It's essentially a risk-reward loot system that encourages exploration. At camp, you can change jobs at the lab and upgrade gear at the forge. The job system is flexible enough that skills carry over between roles. Combat also includes a helpful critical prediction system. You'll see when attacks are likely to land small, medium, or large critical hits. It's simple, but it makes timing decisions feel more satisfying. And depending on weapon properties, you can even flip enemies around to expose their back for double damage. There's a lot going on here. Honestly, it takes about 10 hours just to feel you're fully settled in with all of the systems. Even setting up your party of 15 Blood Maidens can take time. Individually, none of the systems are overly complex, but layered together, it becomes a dense experience. Still, once it clicks, the combat loop becomes genuinely engaging. This is a dungeon crawler that absolutely carves out its own identity. Visually, the character art is strong, but everything else feels low budget. Environments look like they're pulled from a 2007 Nintendo Wii game, and many enemies are clearly reused or reskinned. There is still some nice horror-inspired design, but overall presentation is uneven. On PC, graphic customization is extremely limited, basically just resolution. There's also a frustrating issue where the game doesn't properly detect controllers automatically. You have to manually switch input modes, which become especially annoying on Steam Deck when swapping between docked and handheld. Performance-wise, it runs surprisingly well. Here is footage of the game running on an entry-level mini PC from 2018 with integrated graphics. It ran fine at 720p, with FPS ranging between 45 and 30. On Steam Deck, performance is very solid, 60 FPS at 1080p, or around 45 FPS at 1440p, with roughly 5 hours of battery life depending on the frame cap. In summary, Skelter Finale F is a unique and mechanically dense dungeon crawler with a strong sense of identity. It has a lengthy, ambitious story and a combat system that really sets it apart from most modern RPGs. However, it's also very much an acquired taste. The complexity and presentation will overwhelm some players, especially newcomers to the genre. But for those willing to learn it, there's a surprisingly deep and rewarding experience here. Dadozy Gaming gives Skelter Finale F an 8 out of 10. If you want more detailed Steam Deck performance testing, I've linked footage over on my alternate channel where I'll also post streams and bonus content. Thanks for watching and happy gaming!